Hi, I'm Peter Manson. Today we're at Waikoko Station in the Wairarapa. It's a typical, erodible, summer dry hill country property. I'd like to introduce Peter Garworth, who has a long history of planting for soil conservation, shelter, fodder and shade. So Peter, can you tell me a little bit about the trees right here? When did you plant them and for what reason?
They were planted about 20 years ago as part of the farm plan. This paddock, we endeavoured to cover the whole paddock with trees, and we used a mixture of poplars and willows, and the willows have actually proved quite valuable as a fodder source over the times that we've had severe droughts. The tree behind us has been cut at least 3 times, but the growth on it now would suggest that it's probably 6-7 years since it was last cut.
So this is a much longer period than normal between cuts.
It is, yeah, and you can see why. It's in a difficult position. It's not the easiest tree to do, so we've walked past it a few times and cut the easy ones.
So Peter, what time of the year do you harvest these trees?
It can be any time that we actually need feed and the trees are in leaf. We've used those trees when we put the bull to the cow in December, right through to feeding sheep and cattle in the late autumn. So it's when we need the feed. It's sitting up on the tree, ready to use whenever we need it.
So how do you know how much to feed?
We used to work on a principle on grazing sheep on crop for half an hour for maintenance. The sheep or the cattle be fully feeding for half an hour, and then there's still a bit of residues left after that.
When pollarding, there are 2 main dangers. The first is working from a height, and the second is use of chainsaws. It's important to remember your safety gear. Peter's wearing steel-cap boots, a set of good chaps, a hard hat with visor and earmuffs, and on him he carries a first aid kit. Safety considerations include having a top-handled chainsaw with an effective chain brake, a first aid kit with 2 compression bandages, and plenty of hydration. When pollarding, you need to be a trained or competent operator of a chainsaw. You must have all the correct safety gear and preferably have someone with you as a spotter. We're about to pollard an older willow tree. So Peter, tell me how you would approach this tree and the things that we have to remember.
Well, you can see that we've got the ladder in there, and I think getting a good placement for the ladder is the most important thing. So we've cut a wee bit into the tree so that we can get the head of the ladder up into the tree and it's tied off. And the bottom of the ladder is firmly planted so that when I'm up the ladder I feel quite stable. And then we start to approach how we're going to cut each particular limb out of the tree.
Okay, so then exactly how are you going to approach it once you're up the ladder?
Well, I think first is to take a bit of time to work it out. Because really you want each limb on a free fall, you don't want it getting tangled in another limb. And so it's a case of going around the tree. We may have to shift the ladder a number of times, but making sure that we don't get a tangle, because tangle puts stress on the branch you haven't cut, and when you do cut it, you could get a kickback or jam the blade.
Peter, what should the end result look like?
The end result for the way I would cut this tree would be that there'll be a stub on each of the branches that we've cut. Leaving a wee stub means that we'll get finer branching coming away from the stub of each of those branches, so we get more multiple shoots, so we'll actually end up with more feed growing back on the tree.
Willow fodder has a similar value to lucerne hay. Ewes can eat stems down to about 5mm diameter, whereas cattle can chew branches up to about 10mm diameter. This job looks easy when done by a professional, but there are some things to remember. Firstly, never use the chainsaw above shoulder height. Secondly, be very careful about selecting branches. Watch out for tensions, which way they're leaning, and if there's a problem, get down from the tree, step back and reassess.